war title.
This is Johnny with TigerBomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC 295, Prochazka versus Pereira, which was supposed to be Jones versus the fireman, Miocic? Yeah. So, interesting turn of events, Dontel Mays, the great Dontel Mays, who we'll talk about in a bit, destroyed the pack of John Jones. So now we get, in my opinion, a much better card where we have Pavlovich versus Aspinall for the interim heavyweight title, which is going to be insane. We get to see the truth of that division because there's a lot of back and forth about that particular fight. And then what I've been waiting for, which is Pereira to get a shot at basically just being better than Izzy personified, having the double belts, doing what he couldn't do, and fighting the true champion in Prochazka, who had to obviously leave because I believe it was like a shoulder injury, like a really bad shoulder injury that they got him out. So I'm interested in both these main events. They're going to be fantastic, and I'm going to be very biased. But before I get into those fights, I'm going to give you my thoughts on Almeida versus Lewis. I will say this entire video is going to be kind of a low budget. It's been a hectic week. I just got back from vacation. And this particular main event really depressed me to the point that it just sucked. It just sucked. Like that plus traffic in LA really bummed me out. Like I came back all depressed. So first fight of the night, Mark Casey defeats Caio Fernandez, kind of as expected. I kind of also expected it to be a robbery because Mark Casey clearly won that fight. Didn't do much to win it other than, grapple fuck, but he did what he had to do, what we expected, what I expected. Caio Fernandez, he is what it is, like he's good on paper, on tape when you watch him beat up guys on the regional scenes, but UFC level fight wasn't there. Eduardo Mora defeats Montserrat Ruiz. I had Mora on a parlay, and I'll tell you what that parlay was. It was Mora, Renat, which we'll get to, and who the fuck was the last person? Caio Borjalho. So my parlay cashed, two of them cashed. One of them had Eduardo money line, which I thought was like a steal. It's going to be easy money, and inside the distance, which it covered easily. Why inside the distance? Because I'm fucking smart. Because you don't know if it was going to be a submission or a TKO, and it ended up being a TKO. Told Jose, which he's not here today, he's sick, and I couldn't get a hold of him. I think he might still be sick. But I told him, you're not picking Montserrat, not even as a joke. Easy money. Yeah, she missed weight, which kind of sucks, but doesn't take money away from my pocket. A certain other fight did. Angela Hill. I did bet Angela Hill, but nothing major, right? It wasn't like enough for me to like brag about. But I knew she would be able to beat Denise Gomes. To me, if I'm being honest, Gomes seemed like a meme fighter. And what I mean by that is that she got two knockouts, which were impressive. I'm not taking anything away from it, but when you get those two types of knockouts, your notoriety gets kind of bumped up. And then you expect her to do that to everybody, right? Angela Hill's a vet. There were jokes going around about she's being like 13. Well, now she's 16 and 13, or is she? Is she 17 and 13? Now 16 and 13, 15 and 13 at the time. And I get it, but it's still an improvement. Like I see the improvements Angela Hill's been making. There are going to be fighters that are going to beat her ass. But in this case, I'm like, Denise Gomes was 2 fights away from, 2 fights removed from getting dominated by Loma Lukbumi, which was like, Loma can barely grapple. Angela Hill's shown improvements. Anyways, she won. I was happy. Victor Petrino defeats Modestas Bukauskas. I bet Bukauskas, but I predicted Petrino to win. The reason was because I thought Bukauskas had enough skill to outmatch the raw athleticism of Petrino because I still think he's super raw, like ridiculously raw. Like he does a lot of bad things in there, but because he's so athletic, he has no fear in there. Like he was able to high amplitude take down Modestas, and Modestas kind of laid back, didn't counter very well, didn't throw his hands. And then Petrino just caught him with a picture perfect left hook, knocked him out. I was like, damn, good thing I picked him. I lost like a quarter unit. It was fine. Zaleski and Renat go to a decision, to a draw. I thought Renat, I was so afraid they were going to give it to Zaleski because it was relatively close because Renat wasn't really trying past round 2. He wasn't really trying too hard to like go for takedowns. To me, Renat seems a little too friendly, a little too happy to be there. Zaleski, I'm not going to make accusations, but Acai is a hell of a wonder thing. Granted, Renat didn't really check the body kicks a lot. He was eating a lot to the body. Finally got one really good to the gut, dropped him. props to him for surviving. Yeah, I didn't like what I saw of how he survived, but he did enough in my eyes to like warrant the ref to continue it. But it was like, ooh, that's not good. So little things like that. I still think Renat is a good prospect, and his next fight is where we really determine how good he is. Because if we see another glimpse of like retardation from Renat, if he doesn't take things seriously, because in recently he's just been steamrolling through guys, and in certain fights it's like, damn, he looks really good. In this case, he looked fine. I was like, he might just be coasting here. I didn't like that either. Zaleski, he's still Zaleski, but I do suspect there's something going on with that guy still. You know what I mean? Like he's up there in age. He did get dropped early. Whatever. That's the fight that lost me a little bit of money. I would have had more money in my account had it not been for this draw. Elvis Brenner defeats Krisky. I didn't really get a chance to even talk about this when it was short notice. I think I bet Cayenne just for the hell of it because I didn't think much of Brenner. What was funny though, and what I will always give this to Brenner is that he will always fight. As much as I don't think he's that great, he's always going to fight. And Krusky or whatever the fuck his name is did not come in there to fight. He just kind of looked there to like snake charm him a bit. And then Brenner just swung something and knocked him out cold. I'm like, good, fuck him. He didn't fight for my money, and that's what he gets. Caio Borralho, there's going to be a lot of conflicting things about Caio. I still think he's a very intelligent fighter, and I think he took this fight in the minimum risk category because a smart predictor or whatever the fuck capper will think, Boost sucks, right? Realistically, I don't think he's that good. He's a fucking hell of a firefighter to deal with in that first round. So what I'm assuming Caio expected was like, he's not going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to like chill out, point fight him a bit, get him tired, and then finish him in the third, which is kind of what he tried. He didn't get the finish. I thought his money line was fantastic, though. I think he was like below minus 300. Busso, yeah, I think you need to capitalize on what he can do best, and that is defeating guys lower level. It sucks for him because he went from, Dustin Stoltzfus to Sean Strickland to Caio Borralho. I didn't think that was fair. I thought you needed to baby him up a little bit more. And I don't think he completely sucks, but when you compare them to the last two fighters that he fought, he sucks, right? He's nowhere near their level. And that's kind of where I get my opinion of him because of who he's fighting. Caio, though, there are going to be a lot harder matchups for him, but I am interested to see how he kind of prepares and his game plans because I think his game plans are pretty interesting. Like in this case, he kind of waited to really do anything until the second and third round, which I was like, okay. Like, I don't care how you win as long as you win, and he's a money machine for me. Moving on. Actually, I hope people think Borralho sucks so I can get a much better line next time. Nascimento defeats Dontel Mays. I had made my money, and I was like, let's play a little bit of fun here. I took the doesn't go the distance because I'm like, it's a heavyweight fight. Went the distance. Nascimento proves that Dontel Mays is a loser. Nicholas Dalby. This is the first fight that I got wrong officially. I thought Gabriel Bonfim was going to prove that he was the guy he says he is, and to a certain extent he did. He dominated Dalby for the majority of the first round and majority of the second round as well. I also thought I'm not betting Bonfim because this is the biggest test for him, and if he cannot get the job done against Dalby, Dalby will come after him. Dalby's got that fruity booty power, and in the Discord, oh boy, the pictures of him from Instagram are just like you can't count out that ass, and that's what Dalby did. Like he survived, and then he beat the absolute shit out of Gabriel Bonfim, which was, to me, it was impressive. It was hilarious because Bonfim, you can just tell he was making all the mistakes. Like, dude, clinch him up. Don't let him push you against the cage. Don't swing wildly. Take a breath. Clinch him up. Relax. No, he tried to punch his way out of being fatigued and out of a determined Dalby to get that ass whooping back, and he got it back and then some. Which I was happy to see the crowd go silent, but it kind of sucks that Bonfim got humbled there. I do think he is going to come back much better his next fight because now he learned like, shit, I can't finish everybody. I have to be a lot smarter. And we'll see how he comes out in the next fight. And then Ailton Almeida versus Derek Lewis. I don't know if Derek Lewis is a devout Catholic or a Christian, but I have to say he has to look into a couple Planned Parenthoods after the impregnation that he got from Ailton Almeida. I'm not into that, but like, dude, Derek Lewis, you get that baby out of you. We don't want more Hayalton Almeidas out there. He even asked at the end, like, "Oh, was that a fun fight?" Fuck no, it was not a fun fight. I bet Lewis. I picked Lewis because those moments where Hayalton Almeida did not have success, I thought Lewis would have success. He had maybe 10% out of the whole fight. He had some success. It was what it was. It really killed my mood. I was like, ugh. Like I didn't even stop to watch the whole fight. I left midway through to go play like mini golf at 10 at night. It was what it was. But let's move on to the actual fight card here. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly just because I need to upload this ASAP. Who is the first fight of the night here for UFC 295? Okay. Buzukja versus Emmers. So the great Dennis Buzukja versus Jamal Pretty Boy Emmers. And Emmers is minus 270. Come back on Buzukja is plus 220. I got to be honest. Like, first of all, I usually do like funny pictures and shit. I didn't have a chance to do that. I'm almost glad I didn't because I did not want to look up anything for Dennis Buzukja. Plus 220, I understand that. I will say I don't think much of Dennis Buzukja. I would joke about, and I don't dislike Dennis. I don't know Dennis, but when it comes to like reality, like I don't think he cuts it in the UFC. I think he has an opportunity to get wins, but not right now. I don't think he was quite ready yet. Like he was in the contender series a few times. He lost to Melsick in the first fight. Funny story about that. I bet Buzukja. I don't know why I bet Buzukja. It was just like a fuck it. His name sounds cooler than Melsick. Kind of random bet. I lost money. They gave me the money on my account, and then they took it back. I was like, shit. They must have confused the syllables in Melsick and Buzukja or whatever. But I didn't think much of him. I didn't think his wrestling was all that great. I think he's good to beat outside competition and whip their ass, but the UFC level competition, I don't think he's quite there yet. I know he trains at Serra-Longo. He has good training partners. He's got a good team behind him, but to me, he's not the guy yet. I just don't think he's quite UFC caliber. Not to say he's not a good fighter. I think he can get UFC wins, but why are they giving him top level competition? They got Woodson established in the UFC. Now he's getting Jamal Emmers, who, in my opinion, he's much better than Woodson. The only issue is that both Woodson and Emmers have like a big flaw. Woodson, he just came off of a goofy knockout slash draw with Saldana, fingerless Saldana. And then Jamal Emmers, he's coming off of a loss to a really good competition in a guy who people were like kissing his ass in, what's his name? Jack Jenkins. Where, in my opinion, his biggest weakness is himself, his mentality. He doesn't do enough to solidify the rounds. And in this case, I think he's going to have more than enough firepower, wrestling defense, and skill set. He's fought much better competition in the UFC. Just recently beat an undefeated, what was he, a Russian? I don't know, Daggy? Yeah, Ashkabov. I think he's going to have a pretty easy time here. My concern is because Jamal Emmers is kind of a flake, I wouldn't really bet him. I might put him on a couple of dumb parlays, but knowing what to expect from Jamal Emmers. But I think Jamal Emmers wins this one by a decision. Buzukja's kind of tough to finish, tough overall. I know in his UFC debut, Buzukja, he took Woodson on short notice, but he showed some good qualities, like his aggressiveness. He was landing good shots on Woodson. Like he can make it a dogfight. I expect his gas tank to be better. I just don't expect him to be better. So I'll go with Jamal Emmers by a decision. Next bout, I'll be quick about this one. Joshua Van versus Kevin Borjas. Borjas, El Gallo Negro, the Black Cock, as other people call it. He is plus 190. Comeback on Joshua Van is minus 240. I get the line. I think Van is quite possibly a more polished fighter. I just don't think the line is accurate. I think it should be a little bit closer. Automatically, I think Borjas is kind of a live dog. The main reason is that both these guys are young, 25 and 22. 9-1 compared to 8-1 for Joshua Van. I know he beat Zalga Zumagula, Van is, but Zalga's kind of had multiple people drop out during that week, I believe, and they gave him Joshua Van, who my interpretation of Van was like, the guy's good, he's solid, but I think Zalgas might be too much if he mixes in takedowns. Takedown defense held up. He's a solid striker, good counters. I like his precise precision. I like his precision. I like how he just doesn't throw recklessly. Kevin Borjas is kind of the opposite of that. He'll throw a lot of volume. I like his 1-2, his takedown defense, his scrappiness. I think he's a fun fighter. I'm glad he's in the UFC. I just don't know how well he's going to do here, but I do think the odds should be really closer, like maybe minus 180 Joshua Van. I don't think it should be a 2-1 underdog for Kevin Borjas. Uh, Realistically, man, like I think Joshua Van, if he picks his shots correctly, since they're both stand-up strikers, I think he's going to be able to pick apart Kevin. But my biggest issue is that if Kevin just outlands him by more, and that's what I think Kevin's good at, just more, being a reckless kind of dog in there. Not to say that he's not defensively sound. I just think that he's got that in him, that dog in him. These Peruvian fighters are coming up, and it's kind of scary. Like they're just the new Georgians essentially. So there's a good chance that Borjas could win this one, but I honestly think that Van is going to outpoint him by decision. It could be very close. I think Borjas has a good chance. I like his nickname. Not that I like Black Cock, but I just like the nickname. But I'll go with Kevin, or I get him confused, Kevin Van and Joshua Borjas. Go with Joshua Van to win this one by a decision. Next bout, we've got Kang versus John Castaneda. I did a little tape watch on this one just because I kind of get a feel for it. I like both fighters. John Castaneda minus 140, come back on Mr. Perfect is plus 120. I'm a big fan of Mr. Perfect for a while. Like I like the nickname, obviously reminds me of Kurt Hennig from WWF. Kang, he's one of these fighters that like you cannot underestimate. And last few times people have underestimated him, and I've taken advantage of it. I took advantage against Christian Quinones where he was an underdog, and I'm like, why are people picking Quinones? Like he's kind of like a flavor of the month. You will forget about him after he gets finished here, and he got knocked out and submitted essentially in that fight by Kang, who his boxing has come along. His takedown defense is kind of iffy, but to me, his grappling has always been superior than most in the UFC. It's just that his bottom game, especially with strong grapplers, can be exploited. But I do like his striking. I think his striking might be a little bit better than John's, where I see John as a much more patient striker. He's very sneaky with head kicks, for example. He's dropped a lot of guys recently. I think Willie Cat and Gaffarov with head kicks. He's a sneaky, powerful guy as well. It's just that I think he relies too much, not per se relies too much on the knockout power or the big moments. I just think that he loses a lot of the fight up until he has that big moment. I don't think he goes out there thinking I'm going to land the big shot to then win the round. I think he's trying his best. He's not winning that round, and then he ends up winning the round by hurting his opponent, which scares me here because if he can't hurt Kang, what's going to happen next? I think he's going to have to wrestle. I do think Castaneda is going to win this fight. Again, I'm going to go by a decision. Kang is kind of tough to finish himself. He's a veteran of the sport. Like I know he's like 36 years old. If he comes out here with the slick back hair and the mustache, it might be a battle of the mustache. Castaneda is a solid one as well. It's going to be an interesting fight. I think if Castaneda uses his grappling, he can edge out this decision. Like just be heavy on top, take back control, just kind of out muscle Kang, who he's a solid grappler himself, but I don't particularly think he's as strong as Castaneda. I think Castaneda's got the actual, collegiate wrestling background out of Minnesota. He just has to mix it up himself. Like I don't want him to go out there strike with Mr. Perfect, then have limited success on the feet. Not that he's getting outmatched, but he's not having as much success as Kang, and then he shoots for a takedown. That's where I can see Kang kind of taking over at least 2 rounds, where at that point John is going to be desperate. He does get a takedown and wins the third, maybe even tries to get a finish, at least make it a draw or get the finish. That's what concerns me the most about this fight. So I'm just going to stay back, relax, and watch it. But I'll pick Castaneda by a decision. If he is smart, he will win this fight, initiate the grappling, avoid the submission attempts, and then just kind of keep Kang on the back foot, take him down against the cage, and continue. If you try to make it a stand-up fight, I think Kang's stand-up has improved so much that I think he's going to be quite possibly likely to knock out Castaneda. Like I think back, like on his last few fights, like with Gaffarov, he wasn't particularly winning until he was, and that's what scares me. Same thing with Eddie Wineland. Eddie was kind of chewing him up until he knocked him out. It's just like good strikers will outland Castaneda up until he has that big moment. So that concerns me, but I will go with Castaneda just to win this one by decision. Next bout, Jared Gordon versus Mark Madsen. Holy shit, I did not expect Gordon to be minus 200. That does kind of sway my opinion a bit versus Mark Madsen plus 165. Honestly, it's a battle of the geezers. I like Mark O. Madsen. I've made quite a bit of money on Marco Madsen. His last fight was kind of an eye opener in the sense that like there's ways to out wrestle the Olympian, and to me, it was he's a Greco-Roman wrestler. He's mostly upper body grappling. Attack the single leg. I'm pretty sure he's gotten that cleaned up out and fight ready, but that kind of surprised me that Grant Dawson was able to relentlessly go after that single leg and take him down, take his back. Jared Gordon is no Grant Dawson, right? Say what you will about Grant, he's still a very, very good grappler. What I do like about Jared, though, is that to me, he is capable of beating a lot of high level guys. Like, he is capable of beating guys like, for example, Paddy Pimblett. Some say he did beat him. I don't particularly agree with it, but he's capable of putting on performances where he's out striking technically better strikers, more dangerous strikers, out grappling better grapplers. He's just so well rounded, but he does have that off switch, which is the chin. If you hit him just right, he will shut down. He's not the best fighter, but he is capable of beating a lot of good fighters. And in this case, I think he is capable of beating Marco Madsen if he is intelligent enough to mix in a good game plan, low calf kicks, you know, uh, clinch up with Mark to the point where you may get taken down, but pop right back up because I don't know if Mark has the ability to really control Jared on the ground. To me, Mark hasn't really had a whole ton of success holding guys down. The only guy that I remember him having a lot of success was Austin Hubbard up until like the third round where he kind of got destroyed there. Other than that, like you can you can essentially out grapple Marco Madsen to an extent by mixing in striking, not necessarily getting him down, but like putting up against a cage, attempting the single legs. And I think Jared, if he is smart, he's going to mix things up well. I think his striking is not necessarily better, more effective. I'll go. Mark's striking, it has improved, but I've just not been impressed enough to feel confident in him to win this fight. I don't like the odds on Jared Gordon. I considered betting Jared Gordon before I found out what the odds were. I've just been so busy, I haven't even kept track. Um, he was knocked out by Bobby Green, 5 months ago? He was going to come back. Who was he going to fight? I remember I was ready to fade his ass bad because he came back really, really early against Jim Miller. I'm like, yeah, Jim's going to wreck his shit. And wow, he was the favorite there. Ugh, it sucks. I think he's healed up. I don't think he's going to get knocked out unless it's like a really fast knockout. I think his striking and striking defense has progressed enough to outlast and decision Marco Madsen. I don't think he'll finish Mark. Moving on, I have opinions on this fight. Nazim Sadykhov versus Vyacheslav Borschev. Now, Borschev, Slava Claus, plus 115 comeback on the Black Wolf. Sadykhov, minus 140. I'm not going to spend too much time. I like Borschev on this one. I think he is more than capable of getting a TKO or just an overall ass whooping up until either the doctor decides to stop it or it goes to a decision. The reason I like Slava Claus here, and I know people might be thinking, yeah, but you take him down, that's it. I don't particularly think Nazim is that kind of fighter. He does have the grappling in the back pocket, right? He's a solid enough grappler to get takedowns, to get submissions. I just don't see him being that competent on the mat to be able to submit Borschev. I think obviously with him training out of Team Alpha Male, his takedown defense has progressed overall. It's just that you can take him down. It's just he's also good at getting back up. Is Sadykhov going to continuously go for takedowns? And will that tire him? I think Sadykhov has a decent enough gas tank. Borschev does as well. I think just the striking of Borschev is just going to be too much. Like going back watching tape on Borschev, he's always been an excellent kickboxer. He's very intelligent. And to me, Sadykhov seems like the kind of guy that loves the strike. Like he can grapple, not to the extent that like that's his main weapon, where I feel confident enough if he were to take him down once and that would be it. I don't feel that way at all. I think if Sadykhov can't keep Borschev down, he's gonna feel something like body body punches, kicks, everything that Borschev throws to me is like nearly picture perfect. Like he throws beautiful combinations at times. And if he catches Nazim, who I don't think he's going to be the faster guy here, I think he can crack him, hurt him, possibly finish him, maybe even flash knock him out, where he gets dropped and the doctor, or the sorry, not the doctor, but the ref calls it off early. Like Nazim, to me, he's a fun fighter, and I've backed him quite a bit, but I do see his limitations. And until I can see him kind of progress from that, where we see his dominance on the mat, because I have not seen his dominance on the feet. I'll tell you that. Like he has been hit. He's not the cleanest striker, but he's willing. Right? He's has a good chin. He does progress and get better as the fight goes on. But to me, Vyacheslav, unless he's exhausted, like fully exhausted, he will continue to fight to a good enough level, guys, where he can still win rounds against solid competition. I'm going to go with Vyacheslav Borschev Slavaklaus. Give Sadykhov a couple gifts up his chimney. So I will go third round TKO. We'll see how this goes. I'm considering placing a bet on Borschev, depending on what the line is by the time I get to the actual casino. But I think it's going to be a fun fight. To me, this is probably my fight of the night, depending on how truly good Sadykhov is, because I do see glimpses of not necessarily greatness, but like, wow, this dude's solid. He can make it up the rankings, like maybe top 20. So same with Borschev. I think they can both make it up to potentially top 15 if they can clean up a couple of things. What those things are for Sadykhov, we truly don't know until we see that issue with him happen, where maybe he gets taken down and controlled, or he gets hit to the liver, some shit like that. That's where I have my issues. But knowing that he's kind of hittable, and that Borschev, if he cracks him something fierce, that might be it. I got to take my chances with the guy that I know has a weakness that he's been working on, and hopefully it comes through. So I'll go with Vyacheslav to win this one by a third round TKO. Next bout, Tabitha Ricci versus Lupita Godinez. Godinez minus 165. Come back on Ricci is plus 140. It's strawweight 115. Godinez, to me, is going to win this one. It should be fairly easy, where it could be a TKO. It could be I don't think a submission. I'm going to say second round TKO. The reason for it is that although I do like Tabitha Ricci, I've kind of fallen out of love with her style. Like I think she's a good fighter. I think she's obviously solid at jiu-jitsu, good takedowns, but the way she's been fighting lately kind of made me feel like maybe she's not all that good. Like she's good enough to beat, those fighters in that division, the Jillian Robertsons, the Jessica Penes, who I thought Penne was going to potentially win that fight, but like she couldn't get back up. She just got armbarred. Beautiful armbar, by the way, from Ricci. Polyana Viana, just you exploit these ladies' weaknesses. You just exploit them general. And that's been just taking them down and kind of coasting. Tabitha Ricci's been doing, just kind of coasting, kicking the legs from the top, finding good position, going again for takedowns. I don't think that's going to be the play here against Godinez. Godinez has shown tremendous power on the feet, tremendous wrestling ability. She's training out of Team Global now, and I think that's going to be the best for her. Like training in Mexico, she was training in Canada for a bit. I think training in Mexico with the champ, with Diego Lopes, is going to well round her game even more so, where her boxing is going to be cleaner, tighter, going to be throwing more power, not afraid to go for takedowns, not afraid to go for submissions. My biggest concern with Godinez in the past is that if she's fighting bigger competition, and in certain cases, not even that much bigger, but like Angela Hill, for example, Angela found a way to exploit her takedowns, which would be like knees to the body. That's at least what I think. Herb Dean, go fuck yourself. But in this particular case, I think Godinez being taller than Tabitha Ricci, stronger than her, I think Godinez is going to have pretty easy time with her. I don't foresee Ricci being able to do much on the mat with Godinez. If she does get Godinez down, I think she has to take her back, control her. Even then, I think Godinez can get back up and maybe even slam her to the ground. I truly think that Godinez is the right play here. but I am ready to eat crow if I am completely wrong, because I know Godinez is capable of pulling stunts as well. Like, even going back to like the Elise Reed fight, that was like spectacular because we know what Elise Reed's deficiency is, and that's takedowns. And not only did Godinez basically knock her out, she tried to submit her. She eventually did submit her, but she had her way with her in that fight. But people like Emily Ducote, like, I didn't feel fully confident in Godinez winning that fight the way I wanted her to. And then the Calvillo fight as well. Like, she just tried to strike with her. She didn't want to play anything on the ground. If Godinez goes for takedowns in this fight, that will signify to me she's winning this fight. Because at that point, it shows me she's not afraid of any ground game that Tabitha's going to have. She'll be more comfortable, more competent. And at that point, I think if you do get Tabitha down, land some good punches, maybe get her back up, land more good punches, take her back down, rinse and repeat, because you're going to have the striking advantage and the wrestling advantage. Like, Tabitha might take you down. I don't believe she will, but she might. And then what? Just get back up. Don't get your back taken. Just be smart. Be the one who initiates where the fight goes. And I think Godinez has all that. She can keep it on the feet. I think she can take it to the ground. And I will get to a certain fight where it's similar to that, where one person dictates where the fight takes place. In this particular case, I'm going with Godinez to be the person that dictates that and wins this fight by TKO. Tabitha's been finished before. I don't foresee her getting submitted. If Godinez submits Tabitha Ricci, that to me signifies like this bitch is ready. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And this one, I'm interested in this one very much so, because like Tabitha's been pissing me off. Like, takedown, does nothing, rinse and repeat. You know, she beat Jessica Penne, but that fight pissed me off. She just kind of kicked her in the legs, didn't do shit. And in this case, she won't be able to do that to Godinez. So I'll go with Lupi. Second round TKO. Short notice bout here. Mateusz Rebecki versus Roosevelt Roberts, the Predator versus Rebecki. To me, I'm just going to be blunt. I think Rebecki is going to be the guy that, like, he's going to have his way with Roosevelt Roberts. The only way I see Roberts winning this fight is if he can defend takedowns and just outpoint him on the outside with a jab, and then realistically catch him with a long arm guillotine. I think Rebecki's going to have his way with him. He's going to be able to dictate where the fight goes. He's able to take him down, beat him up. He's just too damn strong, right? Rebecki is. Now, I'm not going to bet him because odds are he's going to be a ridiculous favorite. I don't think in a fist fight between a guy who's 6'2" and a short 5'7" guy, although he's jacked, he hits hard. It fucking leg kicks last time against Radzhabov. I was like, I bet Radzhabov. I'm like, Radzhabov, to me, is probably the more complete fighter. When like the fifth leg kick hit, I was already like, this fight's done. Like, Loic hadn't even started limping, and I knew like I'm fucked. Like, this is it. Like, let's see what happens. Rebecki is very well rounded. He can submit you, he can knock you out, he can take you down. And in this case, he just has to really avoid anything up the middle from Roosevelt, like knees up the middle, possibly that guillotine. Not to say that like he has a powerful has he gotten a guillotine? I'm pretty sure he has in the past. Let me make sure. I just pictured Roosevelt dangling off some dude's neck. Who was it? No, that was Brock Weaver, where he completely wrecked his life. But in this case, I do worry about possibly the long arm guillotine. But I think Mateusz is going to be able to take care of business. I like Roosevelt. I wish the best for him, but in this case, he's just not quite ready, especially on short notice. I think Rebecki's going to beat his ass. I'm going to say second round TKO. All right, next bout. Flyweight Steve Erceg, Astro Boy versus No Alessandro Costa. Erceg minus 160, come back on Costa plus 130. And interesting bout. I'm going to pick Erceg to win this one by a TKO in the second round. I keep picking second round for whatever reason, but I think because Costa carries a ton of power. He does hit hard, very good grappler, trains with Diego Lopes and those gals down in Mexico. Solid fighter. My issue with him is that he's not fighting Jimmy Flick anymore. The thing about Steve Erceg, he looks goofy. but the guy can fight. Like he's got a fantastic ground game himself. He doesn't strike pretty, but he strikes very effectively. The dude also has a very sneaky head kick as well. And I think that if it hits the mat, I think if Costa takes it to the mat, it's going to be interesting. Will he be able to control Steve on the ground? I don't truly think he will. He's had issues in past fights. In like, for example, there's a Mexican fight where he fought some dude. He ended up losing that fight, even though he realistically won the fight. It was like a judge's Mexican decision, but he was able to allow his opponent to get back up. Steve is a much better fighter than that dude. I don't remember his name. He's not important. All that is important is that Costa really couldn't dominate on the ground. He didn't even really play too much on the ground with Jimmy Flick, who himself, he's a solid jiu-jitsu practitioner. That's where I think Costa needs to take it, but I don't think he particularly will. I think he'll try to strike. He has good low leg kicks. To me, I think Erceg is able to potentially catch him with something. First round might be a little close because, again, Costa will throw power. If Costa kind of reserves himself, I think he's got a chance to win it if he gets some takedowns, gets control time. If he can potentially submit Steve, if he can expose Steve's bottom game for being shit, which I have not seen yet, maybe. But to me, I think Steve Erceg, being the bigger guy here, to me, longer guy, he's going to be able to put his punches where he needs to, opposed to Costa kind of winging. I think Erceg's fight to win here, where he could even submit Costa if he can maybe hurt him on the feet, then dangle off his neck, take his back, choke him out. I like Costa, but like he's a little iffy for me at flyweight. Like I know when to pick his spots. Like the last time out against Jimmy Flick, I even took him against Albazi because I'm like, maybe even he can catch Albazi. Didn't really happen that way, but he got knocked out in that fight. I think Erceg can do the same. I'll go second round TKO for Erceg to win this one. All right, main card opener, Pat Sabatini. It's Pat Drutini Sabatini because this boy likes to rap. Versus Diego Lopes. Diego is plus 105. Come back on Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini minus 120. I've been talking to the gentleman in the Discord recently, the black gentleman, because I think they're all black, mainly because they keep using this one word over and over that makes me think that they're all black. But the black guys in the Discord have been talking about Diego Lopes and Pat Sabatini. And where are their strengths and weaknesses? I think we all know that Pat Sabatini is a fantastic grappler, primarily the wrestling. As I mentioned earlier, there is a fighter that can take it to the mat. They can control where the fight takes place. In this case, it's going to be Pat Sabatini, where his wrestling, he's going to be able to take down Diego Lopes at will. He's going to be able to potentially withstand a lot of what Diego Lopes can throw at him. But there's an issue with Pat Sabatini. Not that his nickname that I gave him is kind of stupid. It's a Pokemon related. But Pat Sabatini can also be Pat Sabatini, where his chin is a huge liability for me, where when you're getting knocked out by Damon Jackson, I don't give a shit if it was a knee, if it was an elbow, if it was a punch, toes up the middle, toes up your nose. It should not happen. Diego Lopes, the dude is a killer. Like he's a dangerous fighter. He's dangerous off of his back, as we saw. He's dangerous with his submission game, his sweep game. His attempts in general are devastating. But on top of that, his boxing has come a long way and he hits hard. Now, the biggest issue with Diego Lopes is that a solid grappler with solid grappling defense, like Pat Sabatini, can take him down and control him. But when on the ground, you're going to be just bombarded with submission attempts, with elbows, with punches off of his back. Diego Lopes is a very tall guy. He's 5'11 compared to the 5'8 of Pat Sabatini. And my biggest issue with Pat, again, the fact that he can get knocked out, I think that there's just too much danger in him to consistently keep it where he wants to keep it, which is on the mat, where Diego Lopes is going to welcome that. I'm positive he's prepared to get taken down. But realistically, if Diego Lopes can avoid takedowns, if Diego Lopes can strike first, I think he can hurt Pat. Like I think if Diego hits him with something clean, Pat goes out. That's what I'm worried about. Like it's a 15-minute fight. One of these guys, to me, is much more dangerous at finishing a fight because I don't think Pat's going to finish Diego Lopes. I think Diego's ability to regard and to prevent any passing is just high level. His cardio held up fantastic in his UFC debut on short notice against Evloev, who's a top 10 guy. And we saw what he did to Gavin Tucker. And one of my biggest regrets is that I was traveling when I saw the Diego Lopes line against Tucker. It was like I want to say minus 160 around there. I was gonna blast the absolute shit out of it because I was like, there's no way he loses to Gavin Tucker. And then there was no way he lost to him. He submitted him early, and I regretted it completely because like the guy is just too dangerous on the feet. He can knock him out, and on the ground he's more than capable of submitting him. And we saw what he did to him. That transition where he got him with the armbar, it was a triangle armbar. He rolled over mid roll. Gavin taps, gets on top of a mounted armbar triangle, lets go, and just walks away like seamlessly. I'm like, oh shit, that was hot. Him and his little hair is so hot. So hot. Oh my God. But I do know that Pat Sabatini, if he takes him down, he can more than likely stay on top of him. So it's a very risky fight to bet. Because of it, because of how risky it is, I'm going to pick Lopes as a dog. I'm not going to make the same mistake as I did previously. I think that Pat Sabatini has loads of opponents where he can do the same thing, even look fantastic on the feet because his striking's not shit. I think he's a solid striker, but when you're playing with fire, like Diego Lopes, where it's going to start off on the feet, where Diego may not even give a shit. I picture Diego almost being pre 2020, 2023 ish Charles Oliveira, where he might just go for flying knees, fucking flying kicks, take me down, bitch, I dare you, kind of stuff. And if Pat Sabatini obliges him, maybe he can survive, maybe he can't. What if Diego gets back up? For those reasons, like I know the risk in taking Diego Lopes and betting him, but I do think that he can finish Pat Sabatini multiple ways. And I don't really foresee Pat Sabatini being able to finish Diego Lopes the same way. So I'm going to say round 2, TKO for Diego Lopes. Fuck it. I'll say round number 1. I think he catches him flush. And I don't want to say it exposes Pat Sabatini because I think Pat's fantastic. He's a great fighter. It's just that it's just too much danger for him here. Like, it's too much danger. His previous wins have been kind of like easy peasy. Jamal Emmers, for example. Jamal Emmers hurt him. I had Emmers because I'm like, dude, just tap him once, finish him up, tapped him, went to the ground with him, went for a heel hook. I will tell you, if that happens here with Diego Lopes, Diego will fucking finish that heel hook. He'll transition that into a knee bar. So for those reasons, I need to go with Diego. So moving on. Do I have more to say about this fight? Matt Frevola versus Benoit St Denis. We're getting spoiled with this main card. The Steamroller versus God of War. Now, I've been kind of critical about Benoit St Denis, and funny enough, because I actually like Benoit St Denis. I like saying his name, makes me feel all fancy and shit. Benoit St Denis, God of War, Frenchman, minus 225 against Matt Frevola, who is plus 185. Now, my biggest issue with Benoit is that he is a little reckless. Like in the past, like he's on a great win streak, right? But there's just so many opportunities that I saw where he could have gotten absolutely fucked. In his last fight, for example, he really made mincemeat of Thiago Moises. I have opinions about that. Like, I thought there was a low blow there. Thiago kind of looked a little out of it. On top of that, realistically, in my eyes, it looked like Thiago kind of quit. But that was the pressure that Benoit St Denis puts on you, right? He goes after you, blasts you with leg kicks, not leg kicks, but body kicks, rear left body kick, best weapon that he has. He throws it high, throws it to the body. It's a very good weapon. But when he starts to throw punches, it is sickening to me because if I have money on this guy at minus 225, I don't care how good his chin is. I don't care how tough he is. I don't care if he was a French soldier and they shot him in the neck and he survived and he spat out the bullet. I don't give a shit about that. But if you're fighting like that recklessly, just kind of winging punches, I ain't going to bet on you. I don't like it. I don't like his fighting style when it comes to like his striking. Like when he can exploit for damn sure someone's ground game, I'm all about it. But in this last few fights, I've been kind of tentative. Like I took Bonfim To me, Bonfim made a mistake. The next fight, he made another Brazilian kind of quit, which props to Benoit. That's what he does. He breaks dudes. But to me, there's been actually he's fought three Brazilians in a row. Miranda, he finished him. Uh, Bonfim, he finished him. Moises, he finished him. Good to know because none of those Brazilians, their Brazilian flag has no red, white, and or blue. Well, a little bit of blue, but fuck that blue. The real blue. Matt Frevola, what's so fascinating about him is that the reason he's plus 185 is because he's so damn knockoutable. The biggest issue with him in the past, in his last few fights, is that he's going to get chinned, he's going to get knocked out. Did not happen to Drew Dober. Funny enough, I thought he was having the more success on the feet, like landing the better shots against Drew Dober. And I picked Drew to beat him because I'm like, eventually I think Drew catches him. I think his chin will survive enough. But realistically, I'm like, damn, Frevola, as of late, like his striking has improved. I don't know where the fuck this power came from, where he's just dropping dudes with just beautiful fucking punches. But his overall striking game has definitely improved. What we know about Frevola is that he's a fantastic wrestler, does not get tired, absolute dog, will not quit at all. He's fought very good competition, but the biggest issue with Frevola is if you hit him just right, it's over, right? Benoit doesn't have that issue, but he has more issues, and I honestly think that Frevola has. One issue that I worry about Frevola is that if he's been ducking and dodging a lot, and if Benoit can catch him with like a rear leg kick or rear body kick or rear head kick, that could be a problem. I don't think he'll be doing that here against Benoit. It's truly a battle of the pace. Who's going to put on the pace on who, and who will be able to be there in the later rounds? Will Benoit be able to take him down and submit him early? I don't think so. Will Benoit be able to finish him early? I don't think so, because if it's a firefight, it's a 50-50 when it comes to just two guys swinging punches. And then who's the guy who's going to land first or land clean? And I think that's going to be Frevola. That doesn't exclude him from getting knocked out, right? If Benoit eats one of those punches clean and he then lands a sloppy ass punch and knocks out Frevola, then it is what it is, right? Like it's over. But to me, I think Frevola is going to have the wrestling advantage as well. I think Benoit, he gets sloppy. He's been taken down. I think Miranda took him down. He just couldn't control him there. To me, I see a lot of upside on Matt Frevola. And on top of that, I think his power will resonate here. I think he's going to be the first guy to knock out Benoit St Denis. I'm going to say in the second round, because to me, I think Benoit always looks good in the first, throws those kicks really fast, then he slows down. Then he pushes the pace on you where he goes for the grappling. If this is a stand-up striking matchup, I think Frevola is just so much cleaner, so much fluid on the feet. He throws a lot of things really beautifully. I like the way he teeps up the middle. It's kind of like a push kick teep. He throws good high kicks. His left hook has got a ton of power in it. His right hand has a ton of power in it. I see him being more elusive in this fight, mixing in takedowns himself in the first round, maybe not keeping Benoit down, but just pushing that pace on him. Be like, how do you fucking like it, bitch? And then finishing him late. Because I think Benoit will get kind of sloppy desperate, where then Matt Frevola just kind of like ducks and just counters him and drops him and finishes him. Because Benoit, I've seen it happen too much. Miranda was landing cleanly on him. Shit. Bonfim landed a couple good strikes on him before he got submitted. And then Moises landed on him very cleanly in the pocket with his back against the cage, because Benoit was just kind of being too sloppy. And Matt, to me, with that power he's been showing, I think he's going to really hurt Benoit St Denis. Like, if you look at most of Benoit's fights, he does come up marked up. And I go back to the Drew Dober fight with Frevola. Frevola busted him up really early, busted up his nose. I was like, damn, Frevola's really having the better of it. Up until like maybe midway through, I'm like, okay, Drew's taking over. And then what they call an early stoppage against Drew Dober. So I'm super excited for this one. I'm going to pick Frevola. I'm going to take that dog money, that plus 185, and I expect Frevola to do what he's always been doing. He's fighting in New York. He ain't losing in fucking New York, right? He's going to come out to the trumpets, although it's the Mets. The Mets suck, but still, I think Frevola comes out on top. I'll go with Frevola second round knockout. Next bout, Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. I have opinions on Mackenzie Dern. I have a T-shirt above Mackenzie Dern. It may never come out because I can't find the right person to fucking make it. Mostly because the local people here that I would trust to make it are super feminists, and the message on this shirt is not what you would call ally friendly. But Mackenzie Big Titty Dern, Big Titty Power Dern, I picture her winning this one pretty damn easily. Dependent on which version of Dern comes out, if the angry version of Dern comes out, the one that we saw against Angela Hill, and I don't give a shit, right? I don't give a shit if you say, oh, that was just Angela Hill. No one does that to Angela Hill. No one beats her ass that bad. I was like, oh my God. Like that was a new level to Mackenzie Dern. And she's minus 200 here against former champion in Jessica Andrade, plus 165. Andrade, she's falling through hard times. Right? Like her last fight, where she looked like invincible against Lauren Murphy, because that was Lauren Murphy. Then she lost to Aaron Blanchfield. No loss in credibility there. Zhan Xiaonan knocked her out. Okay, she's a future title contender. And then Tatiana Suarez, no real shame there. Got the grappling advantage. Now she's fighting Mackenzie Dern after her last fight, where she looked like this is the Mackenzie Dern I've been waiting for, the aggressive girl who has power in the hands, who can get it to the ground. I think I don't want to say there's no way she loses. There's a definite way she loses this fight. I don't think she's going to get knocked out. I don't think she's going to get out grappled. I just think the way she loses is if she does not fight intelligently. Where, although I do love the fact that she can go full crazy and just go ballistic on somebody, but she just has to fight smart, but also maintain that aggression. Don't go full heat hard, just go partly heat hard. And I think because Jessica Andrade, she's always had issues really with grapplers, strong grapplers, Mackenzie Dern being quite possibly the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the division. I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Jessica Andrade, period. Now, if Jessica can keep it on the feet, because Mackenzie doesn't have the best takedowns, or jiu-jitsu takedowns slash judo takedowns aren't really all that great, but all she needs is one. So if Mackenzie can maybe even drop Jessica Andrade, that's like spelling the end for me. Like, this is it. She just came off of a 5-round fight, didn't get tired. I liked what I saw. I want to see more improvements out of Mackenzie Dern. Hopefully, I can release that damn shirt. But I will go Mackenzie Dern. I'm going to say first round submission. I think on the feet, there's going to be a little feel out process. Then Mackenzie's going to blah, blah, use those the BTP to drop her, and then maybe dangle off her neck. So I'll go with Dern by first round submission. Boy, do we have a good one. Co-main event, interim UFC heavyweight title, Sergey Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall. This might be the first black, English-born, UK-born champion in black Tom Aspinall. I've been a fan of Tom for a while now. Even like after his surgery, I was like, fuck, I bet Tom against Curtis Blades, and I really thought that would have been the defining moment for him had he found a way to win that fight, which I thought he had a lot of advantages there. And then who goes on to beat Curtis Blades? It's Sergey Pavlovich, by exploiting the biggest issue that I have with Curtis Blades, and that is his mentality. Like he likes to strike now. He's striking mode. Okay, I've done enough striking. Now let's grapple. And I'm like, ugh. So I'm like, someone needs to take advantage of that. And Sergey Pavlovich more than enough did that. So huge fight for me, because we've got one style of heavyweight being the raw power guy, knockout power, finishes dudes in the first round, excellent boxing, right? Like, he's not a scrub, Sergey. And I don't believe I have to even mention that, but when I say that, it's primarily to say that he isn't like a throwback heavyweight. Like, he can defend takedowns, keep it on the feet. It's like, if he gets taken down once, is that it? That was him in the past. And Tom Aspinall is like a new breed of heavyweight, the more well-rounded guy. And he is much more well-rounded than Sergey Pavlovich. He is a tall dude. He's got ridiculous speed on the feet. He can get it to the ground. He can fantastic grappling, trains with Tyson Fury, boxing, whatnot. The issue is what's going to win out in this heavyweight bout. Is it going to be the skill of Tom Aspinall, or is it just the ridiculous power of Sergey Pavlovich? Because on the feet, I see both these guys capable of knocking each other out. Um, I would say 70% more likelihood for Pavlovich, say if they both throw a punch. Pavlovich's probably going to knock out Aspinall before Aspinall knocks out Pavlovich. But it's more of the speed of a punch compared to the power of a punch. Like precision from Tom Aspinall, just dink dink, drops him, knocks him out if possible, or just Sergey punches him once. I love that lead, what I like to call a drive by uppercut. He just kind of throws the uppercut, catches you off guard, strong jab. Aspinall's very, very mobile, though. I like the way he moves. That's kind of what caused him to bust up his knee in his last fight, or previous to last fight against Blades. But I think him being the more athletic guy, he's got much more ways to win here. It's such a dangerous fight, but I do like Tom Aspinall here. And the reason I like Tom is because I started thinking about it. This is a 5 round fight. What would the game plan have to be, right? Like, is Tom going to be like, there, I'm going to go in there and strike with him? Or I'm going to go in there and try to death gas myself to get a takedown? And that might work, right? He could go out there and knock out Sergey Pavlovich, and he could go out there and take him down once and beat the shit out of him and submit him. But Pavlovich, I know he's working on his wrestling. I know how strong he is, and I think he's going to be able to buck off Tom Aspinall early. So, what would be the game plan realistically? I know Sergey's just going to go out there and like box him up, right? If Sergey comes out here and be like, I'm going to try something different, I'm going to try to grapple myself, then I know he's going to lose his fight. He has to fight with what got him to the dance, and that is beautiful boxing, keep the takedown defense up, land the hard jab. Don't go crazy looking for that knockout punch because it will materialize. But I think this is one of the times where it's going to go beyond the first round for Pavlovich, and I want to see how he handles a guy like Aspinall. And I was originally thinking, Pavlovich's going to win this fight because I know Tom in his last fight, he came back after surgery. Yeah, Tybura was kind of landing on him. And if Sergey punches him once cleanly, I think that might be it. But I wasn't really thinking all that clear. I saw the Bohalio fight, and I'm like, dude doesn't have to do shit. Tom doesn't have to do a goddamn thing. He has to let Sergey come to him. And at that point, it opens up a lot of possibilities for Tom, where there could be chances for kicks, leaping in and out, good punches, kicks to the body. All Sergey really has to do, or sorry, all Tom has to do is just avoid the punches, which that in itself might be really difficult, but he can bounce around, kind of kill the clock, make Pavlovich a little bit more tired, less explosive, chop up the legs, kick the body, and just get the fuck out of the way, play the matador. And he's got that ability here. And whenever Tom wants to, I think he can then initiate the grappling and kind of get a feel for Sergey and then bounce back out and see, okay, he was pretty strong right there. Let's try to get into the second round and then feel him out again, see how easily you can get him, maybe blast double him, trip him. Because I still think that if Tom gets him down, he gets on top of Sergey, that's it. Like, I don't care. I don't care how strong Sergey is. Once Tom is on top of him after second round, that might be it for him. I'm going to go with Tom Aspinall to get this fight into the second round, and I'm going to say submission, rear naked choke. I think he needs to be the smarter guy here because if he fights like a heavyweight, he's going to get knocked out. Pavlovich is just too fast with his boxing combinations, the beautiful jab. And the other reason I'm picking Tom is that I was kind of putting too much emphasis on that Marcin Tybura fight. Like, yeah, he got clipped by Marcin Tybura, but why would that be? Like, Tybura is not really a boxer; he's more of a grappler. And I'm thinking, like, well, maybe Tom was keeping his hands low because he tried to avoid any sort of grappling and takedowns. Like, I get that now. Like, maybe if he comes out and does that here and he gets knocked out, well, fucking Tom Aspinall sucks. Fuck you, Tom Aspinall. But I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to come out here hands tight, use a lot of movement, pick and choose good spots to strike with Pavlovich and kind of get a feel for him, push him into that later round, right? Because if Pavlovich wants to come in here and finish it early, Pavlovich has to try to finish it early. Tom doesn't have to do shit. He just has to avoid him, clinch him up. Doesn't have to take him down, slow him down, wear on his arms, take care of business. You have 4 more rounds to beat his ass. Now, if Pavlovich comes out here and he looks like an absolute German specimen that he is, call him Russian all you want. The boy's a German. Then the heavyweight division's in a shit ton of trouble. The Russian tank here, like Jesus, like he looks genetically altered. He looks as if like I'm sure you know. I'm sure I'm not the first one to say this. Little mustache man was like, "Hey, get all the good stuff, put it in a jar, and release it in the '80s, and then see what happens in a few years after I get cryogenically unfrozen." Yeah, I'm talking about Walt Disney, but yeah, I'm going with Tom Aspinall to win this one, second round submission. Main event for the vacant slash Jerry Prochazka is defending his light heavyweight title against Alex Pereira, which is just beautiful because storyline wise, Jury took it from the master of Pereira, which is Glover Teixeira. Now the student is coming after the man who essentially killed his sensei. Realistically, let's go with he retired him. I know, Jamal Hill was officially the one who retired him, but it was Jury. Let's just be honest here. Um, I love this matchup. It's just beautiful. Minus 125 for Pereira, come back on Jury plus 105. I think Jura Prohaska is going to get knocked out by Alex Pereira in the second round. Other than my, unfettered bias, because I'm a big Pereira fan, I see a couple red flags, definitely with both fighters, but I see more red flags, obviously, with Jury. He's coming off of a surgery. How long has it been? Like a year and 4 months. He's still young. He's 31 years old. He can definitely come back and just style on Pereira. Pereira to me, what I find so endearing about the guy is that he is not the perfect fighter. He definitely can strike, he can knock you out. But what I like about Pereira so much, why I'm willing to buy his fucking merch, which was like uber expensive, like $50 a shirt, is that the dude, despite his limitations, he's 8-2 in the UFC. He's only lost once. He got knocked out by Izzy, obviously after taking his title, which to me, not many people really saw that coming. I don't want to say that like it's a reality. Like I just know from like my circles, a lot of people picked Izzy to beat Alex because it's like, yeah, like it's a different sport. And I'm like, no, no, no. Alex, he's a competitor. Like the shit about competitors is that they can beat any good fighter out there just because of their drive and motivation. The guy came in here with one loss in the UFC or in MMA after like a fantastic career in kickboxing and glory. He's in the glory Hall of Fame and for kickboxing. He defeats a lot of guys that one after the other, they were like, this guy's going to be the guy that beats him. This guy's going to take him down. This guy's going to submit him. He's just beating these guys, and then he beats the champ, and then he loses to the champ. And what made me like a insta fan for life for Pereira was that like after he got knocked out, he didn't like bitch or complain. He didn't say anything. He's like shit just happens, right? Like it is what it is. Didn't feel the need to say like, oh, I'm gonna get my belt back. Like, yeah, I lost, knowing that like at 185 he just wasn't his optimum self. He didn't take that loss personal. Like Izzy took it like that was the defining moment of his career, which it should be because afterwards, we saw what happened. But he just didn't seem to like care. Like, hey, this is a job. Shit's gonna happen. It doesn't define who I am, and it truly doesn't. Like he went up to 205, and then he beat John Blahovic, a fucking fantastic fighter. I don't care what you say about the guy, how old he is, whatever. He's a great fighter. He learned from that fight. He learned from previous fights. He got taken down. He got back up, and then he let the hands go, and he ended up winning that fight via split. The guy can strike. The guy is sneaky good with that beautiful deceptive calf kick. I love me some Alex Pereira. I love me some Jiri as well. The reasons I like Jiri, for example, is that he himself is not a perfect fighter either. Like both of these guys are flawed. Takedown defenses. There's a way to beat both of these guys. The fact that they're fighting for the light heavyweight title because they're so damn good at particularly what they do best is to me like I love the sport so goddamn much for that reason. Like they're not complete fighters. Pereira's not an ace on the mat. He doesn't really have the wrestling, but he's getting better at both. Prochazka, really goofy with the striking, but his method of madness is ridiculous. How he can find openings, the switching of stances, jumping up and down, like he finds ways to win fights. His grappling itself, not fantastic, but he makes it work for himself. Glover took him down relentlessly, and the fact that he was just able to goofy his ass out of those positions from a jiu-jitsu master like Glover is like impressive as shit. The fact that he submitted Glover, no hooks, like I know it was the fifth round, highly impressive. Like this is going to be a fantastic fight. The issue for me is why Prochazka, I'm doubting it, and not to say that he can't win this fight. Like both of these guys can knock each other out. Pereira is the much better complete striker than Prochazka, but I keep mentioning this theory that it doesn't fucking matter how good you are as a striker as long as you're effective. Pereira can come out here defensively sound, and Prochazka just kind of jumps up in the air, switches stances, and throws a hook and knocks out Pereira. It won't be pretty, it won't be technical, but it's effective. But in a fist fight, I'm going to take the much better kickboxer, not only because he is, but because he has that experience already training Glover for this guy and Glover training for him. There's a definite game plan there to beat him. Glover had success with him. I just see all the chips stacked in Pereira's favor. To say that he's going to win based off of that, it may not be accurate, but they're just there. He's got that much history. He's got a lot of information. The fact that Jury's coming off of a surgery, I think he's still moving the same. I've seen clips of him like an embedded. I don't think he's going to come out here any different. I even thought, what if he mixes things up and goes for takedowns? I don't think that's his style. I think he might mix things up if he has to, but in that first few rounds or so, he's going to come out here to strike, try to knock out Pereira. That's going to be a fantastic fight. It could be a fight that goes all 5 rounds. It could be a fight that only goes like 60 seconds or less. But for me, I think Pereira at 205, he's going to be able to find the chin of Prochazka. I think he's going to just time things well. He's going to be defensively sound and then crack him. I think he will be kicking the legs of Prochazka. He's going to chip away at him slowly. Pereira's not like this uber defensive fighter either. He has his issues there, so I do worry about him being that. I'd be devastated, but like Pereira would feel like it is what it is, right? Like it's just a fight. It would suck, but in the same sense, like Jury gets his belt back. It's one of those like no matter what happens, I'll be happy, but I'd be really less happy if Pereira loses. I'm going with Pereira round number 2 knockout. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. Like so much so that like it's so unpredictable between these two, mainly because Jury's in it that it could be a fucking flying triangle from Jury, and we just where'd that fucking come from? I'll go with Pereira round number 2 knockout just because I'm a nut hugger. But yeah, those are my predictions for this fight card in New York. Looking forward to it. I really need to wash that disgusting taste off of that Almeida fight. So hopefully this delivers. I'm positive it will. It cannot not deliver. So let me know in the comments below. And hopefully by next week, I'll get my shit together and I'll have some good shit going. But I will see you next week.